Welcome to this explainer on upper limb anatomy. Today, we're going on a proximal to distal anatomical road trip right down the arm. Our goal? To understand exactly how our complex network of joints and arm ligaments is actually wired together. If you've been looking to finally master this connective tissue without all the confusion, you are exactly in the right place. Let's get into it.
But first, think about this for a second. When you swing a heavy bag, lift a weight at the gym, or even just wave hello to a friend, why doesn't your arm just fly right off? Well, the answer lies in an absolutely incredible system of biological guy wires that we call ligaments. They are the totally unsung heroes of our skeletal system, and today we're going to make perfect sense of them.
I know, the medical jargon can sometimes feel like a completely foreign language, but don't worry, we're going to break it all down and simplify this whole network. We'll start way up at the shoulder, your main anchor point, and travel all the way down to the super intricate mechanics of your fingertips.
So here is our roadmap for today. Number 1, the shoulder complex. 2, shoulder bursts explained. 3, stabilizing the elbow joint. 4, the forearm interosseous membrane. 5, ligaments of the wrist. And finally, number 6, anatomy of the hand.
Section 1. The shoulder complex, girdle, and joints.
Okay, take a close look at the acromioclavicular joint. Notice the structures connecting the clavicle, that's your collarbone, over to the scapula, or shoulder blade. Down on the lower aspect of the joint, we've got the corticoclavicular ligament, and this thing is uniquely split into two distinct parts that act like a massive, heavy-duty anchor. You've got the conoid ligament on the medial or inner side attaching to the conoid tubercle, and then right next to it is the trapezoid ligament on the lateral or outer side attaching to the trapezoid line. Working together, they keep your collarbone firmly tethered down.
Before we go any further, let's quickly define two absolutely crucial anchor points you're going to hear over and over. The acromion is the top outer edge of the scapula. It's actually that bony bump you can easily feel right at the very top of your shoulder. And the coracoid process? That's a hook-like bone structure on the scapula pointing forward. Having a solid mental map of these two structures will make all the ligament names make perfect sense, mostly because, well, most ligaments are just named after the two bones they connect.
All right, here's where it gets really interesting. Look at this tiny ligament stretching right across a dip in the bone called the suprascapular notch. That's the superior transverse scapular ligament. By bridging that little gap, the ligament physically transforms the notch into a complete tunnel or foramen. So why does this even matter? Well, it creates a protected, bony passageway for the suprascapular nerve to safely travel through without getting pinched during shoulder movements. It's just a brilliant piece of anatomical engineering.
Moving right along to the shoulder joint itself, also known as the glenohumeral joint. You can see the humerus bone meeting the scapula here. Notice the coracoacromial ligament stretching between our two key landmarks from earlier, the coracoid process and the acromion. So the really crucial takeaway here is that this ligament actually forms an upper vault, like a structural roof right over the shoulder joint. It physically strengthens the joint from above, making sure the head of your humerus doesn't dislocate upwards when you're pushing or lifting something really heavy overhead.
Section 2. Shoulder bursts explained, anatomical bubble wrap.
Now here are the exact locations of the 4 major shoulder bursts. We have the subscapularis, subcoracoid, subdeltoid, and subacromial bursts. The names actually tell you exactly where they live. Sub just meaning below. So the subacromial bursa lives right below the acromion. Honestly, the absolute best way to think of these is as built-in anatomical bubble wrap. They're these small fluid-filled sacs that sit perfectly between moving parts, like right where a muscle might rub against a bone. Their whole job is to reduce friction. Without these little sliding pillows, the constant everyday movement of your shoulder would fray your tendons like a thick rope rubbing against a sharp rock. Nobody wants that.
Section 3. Stabilizing the elbow joint.
Okay, let's travel distally down the arm. Focus on that blue band called the annular ligament of the radius. It perfectly encircles the head of the radius bone like a specialized custom-fitted ring, and it attaches to the ulna on both sides. This ring is amazing because it allows the radius bone to literally spin freely inside it when you flip your palm up and down, but it still keeps the bone locked totally securely against the ulna.
Now, to keep the elbow from buckling side to side, we rely on 2 main side stabilizers. On the inside of your elbow, we have the ulnar collateral ligament, connecting the medial epicondyle of the humerus right down to the ulna. And on the outside, we have the radiocollateral ligament, connecting the lateral epicondyle down to the ulna. Try to contrast these two in your mind. They act exactly like strips of heavy-duty duct tape bracing both sides of a mechanical hinge joint. They let your elbow easily bend and straighten, but strictly prevent it from wobbling left or right.
Section 4.
Forearm interosseous membrane, the suspension bridge.
Now, this part is incredibly often misunderstood, but it is absolutely critical for how your arm functions. Look at this broad fibrous sheet filling the gap between the radius and the ulna. This type of joint is known as a syndesmosis. The absolute best way to understand the interosseous membrane is to think of it as a biological, load-bearing suspension bridge. The fibers run obliquely, meaning at a downward angle, from the radius over to the ulna. Because of this highly specific angle, when you trip and fall on your hand, the impact force travels straight up your radius. But this membrane physically transfers that massive load across to the thicker on the bone. It perfectly distributes the shock and literally prevents your bones from shattering under the pressure.
And it's not just one plain solid sheet, it's actually made of multiple specialized components. You've got the proximal oblique cord, the dorsal oblique accessory cord, the central band, accessory bands, and the distal oblique bundle. Now, the central band is your main load-bearing portion. It's the strongest, absolute thickest part of the membrane. Oh, and also notice down in the distal segment there's this little oval opening. Don't worry, this isn't a tear. It's a purposefully designed passageway that allows the anterior interosseous artery to pass cleanly from the front of your forearm straight to the back.
Section 5. Ligaments of the wrist.
Down at the wrist joint, your forearm meets the proximal row of carpal bones. And just like the elbow we just looked at, the wrist desperately needs side-to-side stability. Notice the radial and ulnar carpocollateral ligaments. They literally tie the pointy styloid processes of your forearm bones directly down to those proximal carpal bones, specifically the scaphoid on the thumb side and the triquetral bone on the pinky side. They're the biological anchors keeping your hand perfectly aligned with your forearm.
Section 6. Anatomy of the hand, a structural montage.
Okay, the hand is incredibly intricate, but please don't let the long anatomical names intimidate you. Just focus purely on how the joint names perfectly describe their locations. First up is the midcarpal joint. Just like the name implies, this is the vital articulation right in the middle of the wrist bones. It's bridging the proximal row and the distal row of carpal bones, and it's heavily supported by dorsal and palmar intercarpal ligaments.
Moving smoothly down the hand, we hit the carpo-metacarpal joints. These joints connect that distal row of wrist bones, the carpals, directly into the bases of your 2nd through 5th metacarpals. By the way, those metacarpals are the long bones hidden inside the fleshy part of your palm.
Keeping up this rapid pace, let's look between those long palm bones at the intermetacarpal joints. To keep your palms structurally sound when you grip things, palmar, dorsal, and interosseous ligaments step in. They act just like a tough biological corset to bind the bases of the metacarpal bones tightly together, right side by side.
And we'll finish our hand montage right at the knuckles and fingers. We have the metacarpophalangeal joints, those are your main big knuckles, and the interphalangeal joints, which are the smaller hinges within your fingers themselves. Notice how the collateral ligaments on the sides, along with palmar ligaments, and the deep transverse metacarpal ligament meticulously secure our grasping mechanics. Every single tiny hinge is reinforced laterally. This guarantees your fingers bend perfectly forward to make a tight fist, rather than awkwardly bending sideways.
And there you have it, a complete proximal to distal journey through the complex ligaments of the upper limb. We went from the heavy-duty anchor of the coracoclavicular ligament at the shoulder down through the load-bearing suspension bridge of the forearm, all the way down to the precise side stabilizers of your fingertips. If you found this anatomical explainer helpful, make sure to subscribe for more simple medical explanations. But before you go, I want to leave you with a provocative thought. If human engineers had to design a fully functioning robotic arm today using only cables and pulleys, could they ever match the elegant tension-based perfection of our own biological ligaments? Think about it. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.